Welcome to Travel Hacks for speakers, coaches, and others who live and work on the road. Travel can be super frustrating, and so over the last 15 or so years, I've spent a lot of my time living and working on the road, and I thought I'd put together a video to share with you a few of my travel hacks that may support you. So far, there are 8 specific tips that I have, but who knows, along the way I might even uncover a few more. Now, the first thing is something that I started very, very young. The first time I ever traveled overseas to Europe, my dad encouraged me to get myself an American Airlines Advantage account and start to accumulate miles. And I'm so glad I did. At this point, I have well over 1 million miles, gosh, maybe even closer to 2 million at this point. And I highly recommend having one airline that you focus on, because when you do that, you get treated special. You probably already know this if you're a speaker and you're on the road a lot, but it's worth it to focus on one airline and to spend all your money with that airline so that you can get upgrades and status. Once you start getting upgraded, you really don't want to turn back from that. And it's easier than you think. And there are lots of tools that you can use to increase your odds of getting upgraded. Here are some of the things that I do. Number one, when I'm booking tickets, I don't book based on price, although I do take price into consideration. I often book based on how many first class seats are available on that flight. If I'm choosing between a 4 p.m. and a 6 p.m. and an 8 p.m., I'll choose the one that has the most open first class seats so that it increases my chances of getting that upgrade. There are also apps out there that can really help you to find out how to increase your odds of getting upgraded. There are Expert Flyer is one of them, and then I know there are a few other ones out there as well. So you can find out different codes that are available. You can really see what your chances are of getting upgraded so that you can stack the odds in your favor, so to speak. The second thing is all about carry-on versus check bags. Now, I've had a change of heart on this topic recently. I spent decades packing things as tightly as possible so that I would never have to check a bag. But as I've gotten older, I've also gotten a little more eager to be taken care of. And I don't like to have to hoist my bag above my head and stick it in the overhead and like squeeze my other one under the seat. So now I actually check my bag, but I do a few things to make sure that my bag doesn't get lost. The first thing I do is as soon as I check it in, I wait a few minutes before I go through security, and I wait to see that the bag shows up on the app as having been checked in. Airlines have come a long way with baggage because of this. All these electronic tools, they now scan your bag pretty much immediately after you give it to them. It gets scanned and loaded somewhere, and you can start to track your bags. So what I do is before I ever get on my airplane, I'm tracking my bag to make sure that it's going where it needs to go. And this will increase the odds that your bag will end up where it needs to end up. Another thing I do is, because I am a American Airlines Platinum flyer, I always make sure that they put the priority ticket on my bag so that it gets loaded first, unloaded first, and basically, I hope, treated better than other bags. And by the way, you can always ask the baggage handlers at the outside of the airport to give you a stack of those. That way you can keep them with you in case you're not traveling first class and you didn't get upgraded, or if you don't yet have status, you can often put those, you can put them on the bag yourself. As a speaker, one thing, worst nightmare imaginable, is to arrive at your destination and not have your bag arrive with you, and then you don't have anything to wear for your stage presentation. So if you are checking a bag, I always keep a backup outfit and toiletries in my carry-on bag, in my carry-on or my personal item, just in case. Now, before I get into the third thing, I do want to invite you to take an opportunity, like this video, subscribe to my channel. Let me know what are your travel hacks and tips below. Number 3 is to bring your own food. I have learned that I have zero willpower when it comes to airport food. When I'm in an airport and I'm hungry, I'll eat almost anything, and that's not very good for my health. Now, that's one thing if you're traveling, once a quarter or once a month. It's quite another if you're traveling 8 to 12 flights in a month. This adds up, and it can really contribute to inflammation and not feeling good and being lethargic. So I always bring my own food on flights. Here's a pro tip. You can carry one carry-on, one personal item, and you can also have a bag of food with you. Now just be careful. If you try to make that bag of food, if it looks too much like a purse, they're going to give you a hard time. So I found that it's a lot easier to take that third bag if it's a paper bag or a plastic bag that looks disposable. So bring your own food, bring fruits. I even bring a little cooler so I can keep cold cuts and turkey and things like that in there. Oh, by the way, American Airlines is absolutely the worst airline when it comes to bringing that third bag. They almost always give you a hard time about it, but you just let them know, oh, it's just food, and usually they'll back off. And also bring a bottle of water, an empty bottle of water. Obviously, you can't take water through security, but these days at all the airports, they have filtered water stations, so you can just refill your empty water bottle. Number 4 is about getting the best price. Now, people think that you have to book way in advance to get the best price. And yes, generally speaking, there are deals to be had way out, but also airlines often release seats later on, and you can sometimes get really good deals at the last minute too. Also, what I found is that usually that 7-day window, you want to have at least the 7-day window. I found that the cheapest prices, and there's been research done on this, so you can kind of stay updated with the latest, greatest research, is between about 14 and 21 days or so is when I've found usually that I get the very best prices on domestic U.S. air travel. Number 5, all about refunds and credits. Ever since COVID, things have gotten a lot easier with airlines. Now, all airlines are required, I don't know by what agency, maybe the FAA or something like that, to give you a 24-hour window to get a refund on a flight. So if you book a flight, you can get a refund within 24 hours as long as you booked at least 7 days in advance, I believe. Beyond that, you can usually now just get a credit. So if you travel a lot, you might be better off just getting a credit and using it again in the future. Now, here's a really interesting thing, at least about American Airlines. I have more knowledge about that than any other airline. American gives you more than 24 hours. American actually gives you until midnight the following night to do any sort of change or return for free. So if you booked it at 1 in the morning, you could wait all the way to 47 hours later and you could still get that return. Now, make sure of that because things change all the time and these airlines are always changing their policies. But as of this recording, that is true. So you actually get almost a 2-day window to do refunds and exchanges on American because of that policy. So it's midnight Eastern time, which is 11 p.m. Central time is the cutoff point, just FYI. And if you book with miles, generally they're completely refundable and returnable, and they'll credit all the miles back to your account, even if you change it all the way up to the last minute. Number 6, my recommendation is to always have both Clear and TSA PreCheck. So Clear is a private company that offers you kind of a fast pass through the security, and TSA PreCheck allows you to leave your shoes on, leave your laptop in a bag, and usually enter a shorter line as well. You don't have to take off as much stuff. There's kind of like pre-approved by the TSA, the Transportation Security Authority or something like that. Who knows? I highly recommend having both of them. I found that sometimes there's one available and not the other. Sometimes they're both available, which is really nice. In general, it's going to serve you. There's some airports where only certain entry points use Clear or TSA, like MIA, Miami. By the way, in MIA, you want to go all the way to the E entrance because that's where the Clear is, and that's the fastest entrance always. And it's really close to D, so then you can just pop back over into D, just for those of you who travel in and out of Miami. And then for international travel, I highly recommend getting global entry. But if you don't have global entry, also, there are a lot of airports now that use the mobile passport app. So there's a mobile passport app on your cell phone that you can download. And at least in Miami and in a couple other airports, entry ports to the United States, I found that the mobile pass is usually empty. Nobody's using it. And everything else, you can have really long lines, an hour, 2 hours sometimes to get through, whereas the mobile pass is often way, way faster. My next tip is about renting a car, traveling once you get to your destination. I generally try to avoid renting a car whenever I can, unless it's going to be kind of a road trip type of scenario once I arrive. But here's what I've discovered. A lot of rental car agencies are terrible. They have these long lines. They have 2 people working with 40 people in line. I've once waited hours to get to the front of a rental car line. Meanwhile, next door, there's another agency that's empty. Nobody's in line there. So here's what I recommend. Many car rental services, like you can book cars through Kayak, through Expedia, through Priceline. A lot of them offer an option where you don't pay in advance. And if you can just reserve the car without paying in advance, even if it costs you an extra few bucks, you can reserve 2 or 3 cars at 2 or 3 different agencies and just have them in your back pocket. That way, if you're like, oh, Avis has a 3-hour line, oh, look over there, and Budget has nobody in line, let me use my Budget reservation. And here's a pro tip. Sometimes when you're in line with Avis, you can even book at Budget. They'll give you a window. They'll be like, you can't book within the next 2 hours or 3 hours. No big deal. Book for 3 or 4 hours out, but then just go early and say, hey, I'm early for my reservation. I've never had them not give me a car because I arrived early to pick up my car reservation. So there's pro tip for you. I'm also a big fan of the car sharing app Get Around. I use that in Denver and San Francisco, all over the place, and I found in Miami as well, and I found great cars at a much cheaper price, and they include all of the insurance that they always try to upsell you at the agencies. The last tip I'm gonna give you is about packing. What I do and what I've done here to come here this weekend is I map out each and every outfit on a hanger, the outfit, the shoes right below it, and the jewelry, and then I basically just take the entire outfit and fold it up into my suitcase. And that way when I get to my location, I just take it out on the hanger and hang it up wherever I'm going. And that way I don't have to think about it. Now, the one thing I will say is that if you have jewelry on that hanger, on that outfit, and you're gonna check your bag, you'll wanna take the jewelry off and put that into a carry-on bag. You never ever wanna check your valuables or your jewelry. And the last tip is, this is what I did when I was going to Croatia last year. I booked with Miles, and I booked with Miles early, and then I kept seeing cheaper flights coming on the market. So I just kept, because it was Miles, I just booked early, and then I just kept rebooking, canceling, rebooking, and canceling until I found the cheapest, best possible flight. And that happened maybe about a week and a half before my trip. So one thing you can do is, because of all these new rules and regulations, and especially if you're booking with Miles, go ahead and book something so you have it, but then you can keep checking on it, and then you can keep often rolling it up. Especially if you're using Miles, you can just credit those miles back into the account and repurchase the new ticket. I hope this was helpful for you. I look forward to meeting you sometime in the future. If you're looking for support with your coaching business, you want to be on the road more, then let's connect. You can find me at superstaractivator.com.